Good evening and welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and those who identify otherwise. I'm Oliver Anderson, Mr. One of Oliver, and behind the cameras, as always, are Grandpa Chris Hill. And we are here to take you through this wonderful, wonderful evening of racing, which will be the second race of the 10th season of SSRI Tuesday Night Racing. What a glorious event we have for you tonight. We will obviously be racing at, but we will be racing at Imola this evening. A race that I've personally been looking forward to quite a lot. One of my all-time favorite racing circuits, and I hope it's the same for some of you guys out there watching on YouTube, of course. And hello to everyone in the YouTube chat. Feel free to ask us questions during the evening of racing in the YouTube chat, of course, and we'll try to answer them the best we can here on the wonderful channel. Yes, second race of the season. First one brought us some interesting action at Brands Hatch. A few front runners, expected front runners, didn't perform to their very best in the first round, and a late pit stop as well turned out to be hugely impactful on the overall results. So let's see what this evening packs. I do believe that somewhere in the back of our small shed we have some sort of a track guide laying around, so we can have a look at what we'll be racing on here this evening. If I can quickly find some sort of a track guide to pull up meanwhile, so I can remember all the corners. Which I don't really need to, because we have a wonderful style track map. Sector 1, of course. Basically, it's just Temporello you're going through there before heading into Sector 2 with Villeneuve, Toes on the very right-hand side, and Piratella in the top left tricky corner. Aqua Minerali, the first part of Sector 2, a place where we have seen many drivers go off track over the years. And Alta, the tricky left-right-handed Riviera, of course, finishing the lap here on Imola. Many good places for overtakes, including Temporello, Villeneuve. We have seen the overtakes into Tosa before. Into Variante, Alta, we could potentially see them, but not the most opportune place. But Riviera, of course, the big one around here. Definitely a track that promotes good racing, and instants are definitely something that will happen this evening as well. So stay tuned for all of the action, of course. Around here, track maps will be, not track maps, track limits will be a thing to look out for as well here on Imola. Not the most prone track in the world for drive-throughs, but we have seen them a few times when we've been racing here before. There are some key areas where they are easy to get, including the exit of Villeneuve, Aqua Minerali, of course, and Variante Alta being the main places to gain some track limits around here. The pit stop is very long around here. It's a long pit lane. A lot of time loss in that, which means that if you take your pit stop at the if you do the pit stop early on in the race, then you're very likely to come into to heavy traffic when you come out of the pits. So that will be something the drivers will have to look out for during this race. Of course, it's a 75-minute race, which means that it's only fuel that's mandatory in the pit lane or in the pit stop. So that will be interesting to look out for as well, who takes tires and who doesn't. I do believe most of the drivers will go through here with just taking fuel, because the tire wear is not incredibly high here at Imola. Also not the very best track for tire wear, of course, but not a track where we would expect tire changes to be necessary in a 75-minute race. For those out there not counting in such high numbers, that's 1 hour and 15 minutes. Just to clarify that. 3 classes of drivers are racing this evening. The Pro class, which was super exciting last time out, I must say, went down to the wire at Brands Hatch, which got won by Samuel von Liebenstein ahead of Baldi and Nick Vargas finishing in third in that one. We have the silver class as well. Also interesting class. It was won by a fair margin, about a 30-second lead for Marcin Koi that won it, but the battle for second was raging with quite a few drivers within a few seconds of each other. Mick Shellican's bound to wins, and Nelson Abrenosa that would be. And in the amateur class, the smallest of the three, it's a class that's always unpredictable because it's all about consistency in that one. It was won by oh Jesus, what a name! Unuk Uoglu. I was definitely butchering that quite a lot. I'm not going to say that a million times this evening. We'll call him by his first name, Anil, which I think would be much easier for us with Dickman in second and Misha Melis taking the final podium position on Brands Hatch. So everything is up to play for in all of the classes this evening. No one have become a clear favorite to win anything as of yet, only one race into the championship. And those who are strong at Brands Hatch might not be the same that are strong around Imola. Quite a different track to go racing on. So that will be interesting. Oh, and we have actually been sent a an explanation on how to pronounce that name. It would be Ochunyo, which is not much easier. I think Anil will be perfectly fine for that one. Instead of trying to butcher something all evening. To be fair, I'm reasonably famous for doing that, but yeah, he could also just be that driver with that name. We'll never know what happens, but qualifying is getting closer and closer to us. Not a track where qualifying is massively important because it is somewhat easy to overtake around here. But there's a big difference on starting in, let's say, 5th and 15th, where we expect it to be very close in between all of those drivers, and that's where the positions will matter the most. The seconds lost from trying to come up from 15th to 5th by overtaking, just starting that much further back on the grid, that can be very, very determining coming into the later stages of the race. So good qualifying could be important, but not as much as it was on Brands Hatch, of course. So some of the drivers might have been a little bit more focused on practicing races. We see the drivers storming out to the track to start their qualifying. All of them coming out, joining it now. It's all about being the first driver to cross the line, because then you'll have the most clear track ahead of you in qualifying. A lot of cars out there on track this evening. So finding room for yourself could end up being a little bit of a challenge for these drivers. It is Odelman who came out first onto the racetrack, followed by I think that's Nick Vargas and then von Liebenstein behind. Three of the drivers that we do expect to be within the contention for the win, at least this evening. Perfect conditions for qualifying, at least so far. I don't think the drivers can complain at all about what they are driving on or in at the minute. A little bit of an onboard with Odelman in the bottom right hand corner as he goes through Aqua Minerali. That exit of Aqua Minerali is where track limits can be a big factor. Difficult corner to go through as well because of the elevation changes and how the weight shifts in the car. Same goes for the two yellow sausage curbs that we just saw them drive over at Alta. How drivers take them can also be quite different, whether or not that you choose to mount the first or the second curb. Some drivers try to mount both of them quite hard, but yeah, it's different to say which is really fastest. I think it's a matter of driving style and preference and how well you can control the car under those conditions when it gets so light underneath you. But Odelman starts his first timed lap still on board with him as he's heading into, down the start finish straight, but coming into Temporello. Of course, where we saw that awful crash from Ayrton Senna a long time ago. At this point, I wasn't even born back then, but I think that our grandpa Chris Hill was. Still running on board with Odelman as he goes through Villeneuve. Using all of the track available, but not putting the wheels into the grass, and into Tossa he goes. This 180-degree hairpin, or almost 180-degree hairpin, leading onto a little bit of an incline in the track. It goes uphill through the small kink of turn 8 and then into Piratella. Again, this is also where track limits can be a thing. Running wide there, almost. I think the track limits are the exit of the Italian flag curbing as he heads into Aqua Minerali. at good pace, it looks like. Takes a little bit of the inside curve, a lot of the outside curving there. That could be a little bit of an issue in terms of track limits. Not entirely sure if that one counts. I think it does, as he's still going full throttle. Takes the first one and mounts the second one quite hard as well, which will unsettle the car. Acceleration down the back straight out of Alta and into Rivasa. As you can obviously hear that I'm not Italian by mentioning it, by saying it like that. First part of Rivasa looks good. The second part here is where you really want to maximize speed, as this is the exit onto the longest straight on the track, longest full throttle section. It does kink a little bit 2 times to the right and then once to the left before going to the braking zone into Temporello. And yes, as expected, no time for Ottoman, but Vargas in the Mode 11 car does put in a time same for von Liebenstein in the 140s. I do think that we'll see that time drop down a little bit here during qualifying. It's not the quickest that we have seen of all time around here from our driver, so that will be interesting to follow on as we go through qualifying. But Vargas, he will be looking for a strong result here. We know that Vargas and von Liebenstein did go into a fierce championship battle in the Sunday championship that we ran last season, where that came down to the wire and a dramatic wet race at Kota decided that one. If you haven't watched it yet, then please do go on YouTube and have a look at it, because that was definitely one to look back at with a lot of joys. Boom, boom, just looking through a few things. Nevertheless, Vargas does go through the corners quite nicely. Fredriksson goes to the top of the table in his Mercedes. One of the main favorites in the race didn't do that well in round 1. I do believe he retired from the race, at least finished quite far down. 2 laps down, I believe it was, something like that. Not the best of starts to his championship, but on to Imola, where we do know the Mercedes does run quite nicely. So he could potentially be in for a strong result, as we see a car having spun around that. It did look like the Audi of Arv, but hard to say. As Fredriksson goes through Alta. Does look good, and he does have the advantage of a little bit of a toe there in front of him, but whether or not that he's too close for that to become an issue into Riviasa, we'll have to wait and see. It does look like that he has slowed down a little bit maybe, or is he still through? No, he must have backed off and opened the gap, because that was definitely not full throttle through there. But onto the start-finish straight he goes once again to start another timed lap. Qualifying lasts for another 14 minutes, and qualifying is where the drivers have to put the fastest lap time in just over the course of 1 lap, so just the fastest single lap, and that will be determining the grid for the race that we'll see in just about 20 minutes time or so. The race will start, so stay tuned and get your popcorn for that. But don't miss a second of qualifying as we see Jordi Peters in his lovely Porsche. The Lion Speed GP livery on that one. As he comes around from Liebenstein, goes to the top of the table. Sinotro also with a strong lap time, almost braking underneath the 140s that in perfect conditions I do believe some of these drivers would be capable of doing. Also pretty strong qualifying so far from Jordi Peters. We know the Porsche is not super strong on 1 lap pace. It's a much better race car than qualifying. As he comes down into Riviasa. He does look to be on a push lap. Let's see as he goes down the start-finish straight. We'll probably see the driver sticking to the right-hand side of the track if they're on a fast lap, as that will shorten the distance to the start-finish line by just a tiny bit. He goes 3rd fastest provisionally in qualifying, but keeping the car to the right-hand side will make the track a little bit shorter. So if you're finishing off a good lap, then you'll definitely be trying to keep it to the right-hand side. And if you're starting a lap, you'll be further to the left to make the straight a little bit longer, trying to pick up a little bit more speed. Even though it's just a few kilometers per hour, even just 1 or 2, it makes a huge difference on a track like this, especially when we have such a long run from the line and into turn 1. Katonen in his Ford Mustang. Pretty dope livery on that one as well. I must say, I do like the 2 speed stripes. Beowulf Racing Team with the 93 car. Through also a little bit twitchy there on the exit for the Mustang. Of course, it is a big car, so it does have some torque that it needs to put down and take contact with the asphalt with. But let's see, rounding the corner, currently second fastest of the Mustangs. And on the run, a little bit of traffic that does look like quite a good improvement as he does come across the line in now up into 6th position with the Mustang. Super strong qualifying lap there from Ville Katonen. That Finnish driver. As he goes into the pits to pick up some fresh rubbers, or some sleeker Pirellis at least, and a little bit of fuel probably. Carlson pulling off after putting in a reasonable lap. Leonardo Wolf Garcia, not with good qualifying so far, still about 10 minutes, 11 minutes-ish to improve us in his current lap time. Set in 22nd position, just behind Bas van Meli's lap time-wise, but he does look to have a little bit of clean air on track at the minute, so if he is on a flying lap right now, it could potentially be a good one. Ferrari pulls off in front of him, giving him even more room. But this can be very challenging when you know that you don't get many chances and nailing all of the corners. You know you gotta push them, but pushing them just a little bit too much and you lose all the time. He does get a tiny bit of toe there from the BMW ahead of him. Not that much, but it will give him a little bit, probably as he jumps up into 17th position. Right in that big mixture of cars, top 14 separated by less than a second. And less than 2 seconds between the current pole sitter and 27th of Koi. Dimitri Willems, who got promoted from AM and up into to silver class after his last race. Seemed that he had sandbagged a little bit in the preseason testing, maybe. Hard to say, to be honest. Well, not that he just doesn't like Catalonia or not, but he did a good enough result at Brands Hatch that he ended up being promoted into the semi-pros. And it does look like that he is running rather nicely in this class so far. Currently set in about 5th position, qualifying. So reasonable performance so far. As he comes down the back straight. Well, thundering down the back straight, we should say. And onto the start-finish straight. Let's see if he improves his lap time from 27th on the grid. Across the line and nothing. No, it must have been a slow lap or invalid, but starts another one at least. The Belgium driver. Another one of the flying Finns. Peltari. I think Peltari would be more sufficient. In one of the Mustangs as well. Those Finnish drivers do love some Mustang, it seems like. Currently sat in 9th position, second best of the Mustangs, behind the other Finnish Mustang of Katonen. But taking that wide approach, does look like that he's starting lap, but up into 7th. And pulls off, doesn't take the shortest line to the shortest run to the line. I do think that he could have gained a position by taking the shorter line there. From Boss, 15th at the minute, and the 115 BMW all black machine. The first driver who's not within a second of current pole time. Up over the top hill, does cut that inside curb just a little bit too much, as we could see the car lifting off from the ground on the left hand side. That is not the most optimum line to take. You want to avoid that. There's a little bit of a yellow sausage on the inside that you really don't want to hit. Seems like that he did there on that run, but still pushing through. Fredriksson moving out of the way there, not on a flying lap. Fredriksson himself, as Buzz comes down the back straight. Fredriksson seems to wanting to stick close to Buzz. It looks like maybe Fredriksson is thinking about that it's Vargas behind. He lets Vargas by even. Maybe trying to catch some slipstream from Vargas down the first straight and staying close enough to steal it again later on the lap. From Buzz down towards the finish line, takes the right hand side approach, jumps up to 8th. Strong run, 2 BMWs between the 2 Mustangs. Looked like, what was that? Was that Alderman also improving up into 6th, or was that a Pharaoh who came there? Yeah, I think it was Alderman who jumped up there, but both of them up there in the better positions. Peters goes into the pits probably thinking about how much fuel he wants to take. Might just go out for one more flying lap. Pharaoh in traffic. I don't think this will be an improvement from Pharaoh then, as he's stuck behind one of the 3 DDS cars. So he might just be on a cooldown lap. Maybe trying to catch the slipstream down the start-finish straight, making a clean overtaking qualifying to get maximum out of that. Nevertheless, all the men still flying through the track. Takes all of the curbing then. I think that's an Evel that did look very, very wide there. But he's still running at least in reasonable pace. Van Medis, last of the pro drivers, not looking too strong this evening. Again, the Mustang could be a difficult car around here, even though it is usually strong on the power tracks and it does handle the curbs quite nicely, which is important around here. It just doesn't seem that it suits how Bas wants to drive the car so far, but let's see if he can improve. Less than 5 minutes to go, and as we're speaking, he does have all of the clean track available in the world as he pulls into the pits. He could still potentially go out to try and improve that lap time. Florian Arf, the German driver who we saw had that spin early on in qualifying, currently set in 23rd position. He is improving, it looks like, at the minute, taking the right hand side approach up into 15th. Up into 15th, what I was trying to say. Came in Speroni in the 66 Ferrari, currently set in 25th. Takes a very right hand side approach, it looks like, minimizing distance traveled. As we can see the car behind starting a flying lap by the angle that he was taking. Still 24th though, not the best of laps there for Speroni as he pulls off. He could potentially go out for one more lap. Or maybe even 2. Nick Vargas fallen all the way into 16th position. He haven't improved much on that first lap, he said. So he'll definitely be looking for improvements here. Coming into Riviera, he does look to be improving at the minute. Let's see what he can do onto the start-finish straight. Look to be getting the power down nicely there. On the right-hand side of the track, still improving, taking the very, very narrow line through. Jumps up into 13th position. Not the biggest of improvements as he jumps into the pits, which means that he will probably only just have one more flying lap if he is quickly about it going back out on track. Well, he's not in a particular rush, but he could still make it out for one more lap, so trying to find a little bit of clean air will be the main thing for Vargas. Barkey in the slipstream of Bas van Melis. This could prove to be important. Because even though it doesn't seem like a big deal catching the slipstream, it does help you quite a lot on this track. Especially from this distance, he's not far enough that he has been too interfered in the corners. But it does look like that he's close enough to get a very nice slipstream, but it doesn't go directly behind Bas as Bas moves out to take the starting line of a lap. Does improve up into 14th position. Still time for 2 more timed runs. if he have the fuel for it. But with his current track position, he will can't park there. He will hope that either Bas makes a mistake and he gets to go through, or Bas improves massively. Baldy have joined the server quite late. One of the main drivers of round one. Baldy finishing second at Brands Hatch. So for him it will basically be a one-shot qualifying. So that surely will be interesting to see what he can do. Not the best of starts though, as he runs wide, losing a little bit of speed down the start, finish straight. As he comes across the line to put a lap time on the board, P3, even though he did go wide there on the final sector. Which means that he could potentially have been on the run there for at least a P2, maybe even pole position lap time that he was looking for. But didn't get it. Not the best of starts to this lap either, with the loss of speed already before the lap was started. But let's see if Baldy improves further down the field. Even from a wall racing, the German driver does look to be improving, jumps up to 31st position and pulls out. So qualifying done for from Ivan. Voucher wins in the semi-pros, currently sitting about 5th in the semi-pros, and not that many semi-pro drivers actually out there on track. It's Voucher wins, Monakov and Mestrini, who's out there, who could potentially still improve, and Mokri, or Moraki as we decide to call him. Moka maybe even, are the drivers out there, but Voucher wins from DDS Racing, as time does run out in qualifying. Everyone that crosses the line now will be done with qualifying from 30th to 28th. Little bit of an improvement. Just jump up into 4th in class. Parties, last of the pro drivers. Can he do it? Put a little bit of an improvement on the board. Baldy gone to a operational pole, which means that he did improve there on the final lap that he was driving. But let's see what Parties can do as he comes down the back straight. 2 more left turns to go. Looks good so far. Could have used a little bit more exit there. There was astroturfing not being used. Does look to be improving from 37th. What will it be? 34th then. A little bit of an improvement from Parties. Only the 92 car left on track, still with the possibility. That's Tesh Fredriksson. Can Tesh do anything from 5th position on the grid? Will he be improving? One more kink to go. No, he will not. So that was qualifying from Imola, as we'll be taking a little bit of a short break here before we go racing around this mighty venue. We'll be back right after this. We are back as the drivers are getting ready to roll out on the formation lap. All of them set on the grid, it looks like, and are in formation to start the race. Baldy in pole, goes second on the grid. Fredriksson in third. Sinatra in third. Oh, sorry, in fourth. Peters in fifth. Grasilini in third. Oh, sorry, in sixth. What am I even talking about? I've already gotten the numbers confused. In seventh will be Faro. Eighth will be Peltari. Ninth will be Ordelman. Thumb Boss rounds out the top 10. And that's basically the top 10 starting drivers of the race. We could go further down the running order, but yeah, let's just take that top 10 for now. At this point, the drivers will be trying to get heat into the tires and brakes, building up that mighty temperature. That might be something that some of them are more used to do than others, and that different ways of doing this. Some will be weaving, some will be accelerating and braking, some will be driving with the foot on the brake while still accelerating to generate that heat. Many different ways of doing it. At this point, the drivers will also be checking their pit stop strategies, whether or not that they are set up as they would like. Do remember that we have a mandatory pit stop in the race on the timing board. That yellow box or orange box with the number 1 in indicates that the drivers still have one mandatory pit stop to go. So that will be something to look out for in the race, who takes the pit stop and when. Can be different fuel loads in the cars. Those who will be opting for the tire change in the race, they're probably starting on quite a bit less fuel than those who won't take the tire change. As if you take the tire change, then you do have to be stationary for full 30 seconds to get the tires changed, and the car will be refueled while you are changing the tires. But for those who are not changing the tires, they can just take the fuel, and that will be quite a lot quicker than 30 seconds, if they only have to take a little bit of fuel. So that will be interesting. Question from our camera crew, our camera guy, Grandpa Chris Hill. How many people think that they will be Max Verstappen into the first corner and try it on the outside? Well, that is a very good question that we are leaving to you guys out there on the YouTube channel and in the YouTube chat. Obviously, we don't have a lot of time to answer that, but interesting to see your predictions for that. As the drivers are starting to line up in the 2x2 formation, while we are waiting for the green command. Coming down the long start-finish straight, which means that, ladies and gentlemen, and those who identify otherwise, we are shortly about to be I thought that line was the start line. Drive-through for boss already racing. Wonderful start from von Liebenstein, who does jump Baldy into the first corner, have all the room he wants. Fredriksson on the outside, big crash there. That's Peters who goes around, but does manage to save it, so he stays safe. Rest of the field seems to be bunching up nicely without too many contacts. A little bit of a yellow is being shown, but I can't see any cars parked in the gravel trap. So clean start-ish so far. Boss with the drive-through for being out of line on the or out of position and on the starting procedures, or speeding up too early. Top 3 have run away. Big crash further down the field though, through Villeneuve. That surely would be something we can get a replay of later on. But top 3 have run away. Von Liebenstein does lead Baldy, who leads Fredriksson. They have made themselves a nice little gap of around a second down to Peters. We did see get contacted in turn 1. So he might be running around with a little bit of damage. Sinatra behind. Not too close to Peters though. Peters is reasonably safe at this point. He can focus on trying to close the gap up to the top 3, who are just right there in front of him. He can really smell it. But can he push for it? We'll have to wait and see. Still, Givassi in the Aston Martin number 18, leading the semi-pros by quite a margin. As we round Rivasi for the first time, a little bit of yellow, also an alter. Cars have gone off there. As we come on the run down the start-finish straight for the first time, full speed in race trim. Boss goes in to save the drive-through early. Very, very costly on a track like Imola. Big long pit lane. Yellow flags again in Rivasa. Not super clean first lap for the drivers out there. As we are heading through the first sector for the second time in the race. Jordy Peters a little bit of a challenge from behind Pilatri, looking for it, but doesn't quite get it. Woo, big contact! That's an Aston Martin that's gone wild. Wide there. Was that Griassi there from the semi-pros? No, that's Baldy. That's Baldy who's gone off. Baldy got contact and went very much off there. Wasn't with the top 2. I thought he was, but Baldy getting spun around and being put into the gravel trap down to 9th. Will have to recover up through the field. He does have Nick Vargas, championship rival, in front of him. That might be a driver he'll try to clear as early as possible to get that advantage, but his tires must be a little bit cooked at this point. Might have been overheated, and he will probably think about taking the tire change in the pits now. Replay of what happened into Villeneuve. Oh, just a little bit of a messy contact there, and then Constantinoing up behind. Not as wild as it looked like initially. 2 small taps. And that's basically it. Baldy's still running there. He will have to be trying to chase Vargas. We do know Vargas is a tough nut to crack. Good defensive driver. Lots of endurance experience, so he does know how to keep pace and position the car just about right. So Baldy will be on for a mighty recovery drive if he will if he wants to take a podium out of this one. But that did promote Jordy Peters up into 3rd though, which he'll be happy with after being contacted on lap 1. Already a back marker being passed, at least a slow moving car that Vargas passed rather quickly. It is getting blue flags, so that is a back marker. Pulls out of the way for Baldy there. Here's what happened to Baldy. What, did he just jump back there and then seems like some iRacing netcoding there or something like that. That seemed very, very strange. Doesn't run with a lot of ping, so I highly doubt that was the issue there, but that definitely didn't seem right. I don't think Baldy will be too happy about that, as looked like nothing that he could do about it. Yeah, holy netcode, the Alex mentions in the YouTube chat. Haven't seen that before on ACC, at least not that severely. Meanwhile, Tesh Fredriksson right up in the rear end of von Liebenstein. Meanwhile, Peters have gone fastest in the race so far. Thinks wiser of it into Riviasi. But Fredriksson is trying to line it up for the move into Temporello. It looks like very, very closely tucked in underneath von Liebenstein's rear ring. Big Merc power versus that VTEC of the Honda. Who will be quickest? Doesn't look like that he gets the he doesn't have the top speed to really make a big threat to von Liebenstein. He is gaining here, but that's very late on the straight. Fredriksson might be running a little bit more downforce than von Liebenstein. Good run out of Temporello though into Villeneuve. We go on the inside, and he's already passed before the braking zone. Big move there from Fredriksson as he takes the lead of the race. Pilatri with the fastest lap, outdoing Jordy Peters, but Peters have been put right into the battle here. Same for Sinatra and Pialtri. They are not far behind after that scrum for first position. Fredriksson have taken it, but can von Liebenstein strike back? Meanwhile, Carlson in the big challenge for 6th with with Grazioli ahead of him, very close together into Aqua Minerali. Not where he wants to take alternative lines, but does look like that Grimaldi is a little bit slower than Nick Vargas, also getting onto the back of Carlson now because of the slightly slower moving Aston Martin in front of them, at least through that sector of the track. Vargas with a bad run into Alter there. And he gets overtaken by Baldy. Baldy back up into 8th position at this point. Carlson still the main threat to Grazioli's 6th position. Grazioli could potentially also be promoted into the pro class if he keeps up this pace and finishes like that after 2 strong races then. But time will tell, so Grazioli will probably not give this one up easily. On the run down the start, finish straight. Into Temporello we go, not close enough for Carlson, or is he showing himself on the inside? Actually does go for a little bit of a move there, but just about gets it stopped there. That move, I don't think he was close enough to really attempt it. He should probably have tucked in behind and tried for it into Villeneuve, as we saw Fredriksson do on Von Liebenstein just 1 lap ago. But he might get a freebie there as Grimaldi does run a little bit wide, which means Carlson up into 6th, but under immediate pressure from Grimaldi behind us. Is that Baldy maybe? That's actually Baldy, I think, behind, putting him under that pressure. So this means we might see the black Aston Martin of Baldy make the move on Carlson at some point. He will start to think about it. We do know Baldy is quite rapid. So whether or not that Carlson can hold up Baldy, we'll have to wait and see, but 1 hour and 7 minutes to do so. But once again, the more time that Carlson have Baldy behind, the less time a driver like Vargas, a driver like Caton, and a driver like Grazioli, a driver like Barkey can get the chance to overtake. So yeah, he'll be trying to run away, but he is actually opening the gap himself and Baldy to Nick Vargas and that group behind. Meanwhile, Fredriksson have opened the gap to over a second out in the front, so he's basically gone at this point, like the wind. Meanwhile, Milan Dumas in battling. Milan, the purple car in 11th position with Loop behind. No, that's sorry. Milan, Milan just passed Barkey, we should rather say. So Barkey and the Ferrari behind, Milan up into 11th position, making good progress. He can see the battles going on up ahead. Meanwhile, we see here Caton and Grazioli out there in the gravel trap for the 2nd time, and Sinatro from 5th have gone around, or from 4th position have gone around and dropping quickly 8th, 9th position as he gets going again. Wonder if that was contact or just a little bit of a spin. The Villeneuve corner are quite tricky, or chicane we should say, are one of the more trickier corners, and we do see drivers quite often run wide both into Villeneuve and on the exit. Carlson pushing the track limits a little bit early on in the race, so he might be running around with a warning on him for track limits. Baldy getting very close. I think Baldy is just sort of gauging where he can make the move. He's not getting that much close, and don't think he wants to be. As I'm saying that, he goes all the way up underneath the wing of Carlson, so what do I know? Shows himself into routes, and this is where he wants to be close, getting the slipstream, but a little bit too close to get the slingshot. But the slipstream itself will probably be enough to go for the move into turn 1. But let's see what happened to Sinatro here. Oh, he gets contacted. He gets contacted by the Mustang and spins around. Unfortunate. Meanwhile, Baldy didn't make the move into turn 1. But with the big overspeed out of Temporello, he will be trying it into Villeneuve, inside, outside, trying the outside, forcing Carlson to go run a little bit more narrow, so into the hairpin we go. Outside line will be the cutback. It looks like he tried the cutback, but got blocked by Carlson with good defensive driving. That shot behind the tree reminds me of when you see old footage of Formula 1 on a Brands Hatch when they go through Druids. Well, to be fair, Chris is old enough to remember when stuff like that happened, so he might just be doing a little bit of an honoring montage of the days of old. As Baldy goes through, yes, Chris, you do remember the trees were planted on Brands Hatch. That is definitely what we are saying. Probably also got your year picture signed by Moses. Anyway, Baldy in 6th. Still no way to pass Carlson further down the field. 2nd place in the semi-pros. Koi in the very Dutch-looking car. Of all of the orange color. Right behind Loop and Barkey up ahead in the black, and then the purple Ferrari ahead of Loop. And that's a Ford Mustang that's about to be lapped, I think. Yeah, that's the Mustang that the top guys had to lap early on. That have already gone a lap down. Unfortunate time to do that, as you will have to give way to all of the traffic. That's one of the biggest killers of races. If you go a lap down early in sprint races, you lose so much time by having to give up room for the cars coming from behind. But Martin Koi, nevertheless, super close with Brim Loop for the wonderful 13th position. Running behind the corner of Old as we're coming up the incline. Not really a place where moves are that easy to make. We have seen them made there before, but that does require the car you're trying to overtake to take a bad line through the hairpin. And for yourself to get an epic run out of it. Mustang still ahead of them as they go into Alta. Both of the cars being a little bit too aggressive on the throttle, then taking too much curve, as we saw the cars just tweaking when they landed. Both trying to maximize the exit. That back marker might actually be helping Brim Loop a little bit by giving him the slipstream. He will have to pull out of the way on this straight though, with the gap between them. But he is helping Brim Loop by giving him that slipstream. Helps him defend quite a bit. Not moving out this time. Maybe he'll do it on the run into Villeneuve then. Have to wait and see on board with Koi. As we can see how he trusts his BMW to handle all of the curbing, even taking the yellow sausages a little bit. Shows himself just putting a little bit more pressure onto Loop. Getting really close there through Villeneuve. Actually could potentially try a little bit of a dive into the hairpin. Brim is going defensive now. Covering it off and staying on the apex, hooking that inside to protect from the slingshot. Bottom right hand screen, that is Von Liebenstein and Peters, I believe, that are running close together in the battle for second place. It will be. They are battling for. Ooh, there the back markets halfway through Aqua Minerali. Have maybe helped Koi to try and set this one up. This time Brim Loop will not get the best of exits onto the back straight. Oh, but Koi with the slight wheel spin. They have brought Wolf, Garcia and Florian off into this battle as well. Koi getting close enough that down the front straight into Temporello, he will definitely be able of going for the move. Same goes for Garcia, he will get a mighty tow. Car being stopped on track, yellow flag and retired it looked like. But a mighty tow this time for Koi. Not close enough for the slingshot though, but definitely close enough that he could potentially launch it up the inside. Not doing so, opting out of that. Probably the smartest thing to do, as that would have been super risky to do from that distance. But on the run into Villeneuve, we have seen Koi being quite a bit better on the brakes than Loop last time around into Villeneuve. And we do see how he closes the gap, but losing it a little bit there on the exit, giving Loop just that tiny bit of breathing room that he needs through the hairpin to not go defensive. Garcia also closely involved in this one. Looks like Peltari have joined the battle for second. As he have caught up massively to Jordy Peters. Koi again showing himself, but not quite close enough to make Brem Loop nervous into the Alta chicane. This time though into Riviasa, not quite daring to go for it. It is usually also smarter to try it down into Tamburello. The thing is, it's just not an equally long braking zone, and it is hard to get the upper hand on the exit onto the start-finish straight rather than the back straight. So that might be why he's close into Riviasa, but again, not quite close enough. Also, they made a little bit of a gap there to Wolf Garcia behind, but this time he cancelled it very nicely up through Tamburello on the outside into Villeneuve. Not the easiest way to go for it, but on the outside becomes inside, and the move done. Or is it though? Nice cut back from Brem Loop, but he will have the outside through the hairpin. This will be a drag race up the hill, and look how close Garcia is behind. Side by side action though. Koi does have the better line through the corner, but will anyone give out? Yeah, it looks like that Loop fought wise enough, but Koi goes too deep and Loop goes behind again, and Koi takes it really close that Garcia could have snuck through as well. Florian Arf just enjoying the battle, it looks like, from behind. If they keep battling like this, then Bas Familis can come in as well. Meanwhile, Peters have made the move on Van Liebenstein and taken second position, while this great battle have been going on. So Peters up into second, and Van Liebenstein looks to be under pressure immediately from Peltari in the Mustang, who tries it on the outside into Tamburello. And looks like that he does get the move done. Van Liebenstein will have to back out of that one. So Van Liebenstein losing 2 positions in rather quick succession, dropping himself into 4th. Peters already making the gap to Peltari and Van Liebenstein, which leaves him a little bit more secure in that second. We did see him being quick early on in the race, but this battle for 13th is getting spicy between Loop and Koi. Big gaggle of cars a little bit further down the road as well, so we could see with the green car leading that battle group, with the lap Mustang also involved in that. I think that's Sander Vale in the green car maybe, but nevertheless Koi looking for it. It does seem to be that tiny bit quicker, where it's super annoying to be behind another car, because you're not that quick that it's an easy overtake, and you know that you're losing time being stuck behind. So some Koi will have to think of something. He did try for it before. Yellow flags up ahead. That's the 52 car. We are passing him rather shortly, I would assume. I have got to start moving, and there is the McLaren up ahead, pulling into the left hand side, letting the cars by. Doing a good job of that, by the way. Through Riviasa we go. This time Koi does have the distance. Not quite for the sting shot. A little bit too far behind for that. But he will get a good toe and big speed advantage. Natre coming into the pits early on. That's very early actually, after just 20 minutes of racing. That must be for some sort of damage repair. That BMW looks super strong on the braking from Koi. A lot better than Brem Loop. The gap that he's closing down on the braking, that's almost incredible. He also seems to be a little bit more comfortable taking the curves in the BMW than Brem Loop in the Aston Martin. They have started gapping Garcia again, but if they start battling, then he will be right back in it. Coming up the hill yet another time. Through Aqua Minerali. It is a little bit surprising that the Beamer does look that much better on the curves than the Aston Martin. Both of the cars are famously known for being very strong on tracks like this, where curbing is super important to be good over. Also one of the few tracks where the Nissan might be one of the top contenders alongside the Mercedes. We do know the Mercedes is reasonable competitive on a lot of tracks, but Imola, especially because it's so good on the curbing, makes it a strong contender here, which Tess Fredriksson is proving quite well out in front. It does seem like that they have stabilized a little bit. Down here, Vargas have gone off. Vargas dropping like a fly from 9th to 11th. Meanwhile, Koi have got right back up to loop. Outside trying to get the better exit, but not quite getting it turned in time. But he is sacrificing a lot of tires to stay this close to Brem Loop. Whether that will come back to haunt him, we'll have to wait and see. Still 51 minutes to go in this race. Still a long time before we will expect the first pit stops to come in. Those who will be taking tires might be coming in with about 37 minutes remaining. Van der Kran involved in this one. And Morka as well. I think it is maybe. Side by side into Alter. Oh, just that side contact. It is so difficult running side by side through there, but yeah, hard to say from a quick look there, but really unfortunate for these two drivers. Van der Kran often finds himself in these situations with very unfortunate contacts, but this time Koi with the big run on Brem Loop, going to the outside of Loop into Temporello. A little bit of overspeed on Loop, just backs out of that completely even before the braking zone. Tucking in behind, doesn't want to do that side by side. He does know the risks on this track, on the overtaking opportunities, but this time Koi makes the move nice and cleanly, and nothing Brem could have done about that. So will Koi have the speed to pull away from Brem Loop? That will be seen over the next lap or so. But it could be challenging for Koi. Now he's so used to following another car that he'll have to find his own lines once again to break the gap. This is where he lost it last time when he got the position by running a little bit wide. Here's Nick Vargas, just losing into Temporello and then touching that sausage curb. Actually pretty good save initially there on the dirt. The car did look like it was about to twitch back onto the track. Good save there, but then a little bit of a half spin in the end. Not too much damage, I think, from on the car from that one. Only on the ego. Yeah, but Koi, let's see, have breaking a little bit of a gap. To Brem, but Brem still in it. Further back the field though, big battle pack forming up here. This is Iron van der Linden, it is Cohen Geens, and it is Pharaoh. All three of them close together. This will be for P3 in the semi-pros. It looks like, depending on where Grazioli comes out after the pit stop sequences have finished, some drivers opting for the pit now. This is super early. Could be that they're just going for fuel and things they can get out into clean air maybe, and that could be a rather good strategy call, to be perfectly honest. Maybe one of the better ones if it pans out for the driver. It turns out to be a good call that don't hit traffic when they come back out on track. Definitely way too early for tires. But Van der Linden of THRC with Cohen Geens of the DDS, two of the long-term running teams in the community that are quite known with the good liveries. None of the teams ever really make it into the pro splits, but in the semi-pros they have been racing battles for a long time, these two teams. And Cohen Geens leading the group, or leading of the two, initially at least, or leads it right now. But Derek Williams also not that far behind. He could potentially catch up to this battle group as well. Just about a lap and a half away from the first half hour of the Imola race. We have been blessed with a lot of close battles so far. Groups are forming up around the track that are duking it out for position. Speaking of which, Florian Arf have caught up to Wolf Garcia. It does look like that P13 battle area, that is the main place at the minute on track. But Florian Arf catching Wolf Garcia. Two very different cars to drive, the Ford and the Audi. Especially if you go one generation back on both of them, then they were two extremely different cars to drive in all aspects of how they worked fundamentally. They've gone a little bit closer with the aero updates, that they both have been somewhat more stable to drive, but that Audi is still rather twitchy, as we see Florian Arf running wide there in Aqua Minerali, and even though there's no time gain on what he did there, that is that quite often ends up counting as a track limit anyway, because you're rejoining the track with quite a bit of speed. I know that firsthand, as I got the fourth track limit and thereby a drive-through in an endurance race that my teammate Dominic and I were doing quite well in here a year or two ago. But enough about my own racing stories. I could tell you many more of those. Meanwhile, Milan Dumas, haven't seen him for a while, but creeped up into 8th, right behind Keitunen in the Mustang. Milan have made good progress on closing that gap, so he might be a bit quick out there on track at the minute, so he could potentially be catching up shortly, trying for an overtake on Keitunen. Keitunen 7th, still just only the second best of the Mustangs. Also the first manufacturer to be represented twice from first and down would be the Mustangs at the minute, which is a bit surprising. We do know it's a good car, but that good is strange to see. But still, with the Mercedes out in front of the commanding 9-second gap to Peters in the Porsche, and then Peltari in the 151 Mustang, actually quite close to Peters, and then Van Leemstein, Baldy, Carlson, and then Keitunen and Milan Dumas down here. Battle for second. Jordi Peters, Sampa Peltari, Porsche versus Mustang. And into turn one we go, actually on the outside. Peltari goes for it, but will Peters be able to outbrake him on the inside? He does stay in it. Side by side, who will come out of this on top? A little bit of slide there from Peters, but he just keeps position just managing to keep it so, but a better run there from Piltari into the Villeneuve, but on the outside, that's a difficult place to do it. Peters maintains position, just ever so slightly. Great driving from both of them there. Strong attack, but an equally good defensive drive there from Jordy Peters, choosing to keep it in there. Same for Piltari, none of them backing out of anything there. Side-by-side action. This could go down to the wire between the two of them if they're on the same strategy. Usually I would expect the Mustang to be the car putting down the Lecrishes coming out the corners. Well, putting down some rubber. But this time it was the Porsche and Jordy Peters being a little bit too aggressive on the throttle. But let's see if we can, if Piltari will get back up and trying for into turn 1 of Temporello once again next time out. He is just about in that gap where you get a mighty slingshot if you catch it just right behind the car up ahead. As they have gone through Riviasa and onto the start-finish straight. Reasonable gap, but I think this might be a little bit too far. Meanwhile, a little bit further down the field, Koi and Nick Vargas running close together as well, but this time he goes for it again on the outside. Piltari tries it this time though. Peters a little bit more safe there, but Piltari will get the better exit. So potentially the move into Villeneuve didn't get that much of a better exit though, so might be a little bit too far behind to try for it this time around. But he does look very racy, does Piltari. He really wants that P2. Look at that close together through the hairpin. Peters not going all the way out, taking the maximum line into the corner. Which will mean that he have lost a bit of time on that. So Piltari knows that Peters feels the pressure at this point. But what can he do about it? Meanwhile, Koi also super close to Vargas, showing himself into Villeneuve. But again, not close enough for him there either. Next overtake opportunity in any of the two battles will be in the main screen from Piltari on Jordy Peters at the end of this back straight. I don't think he'll be quite close enough to go for it into Riviasa, but he could potentially line it up for the attempt into turn 1 Temporello once again. Meanwhile, Koi trying to stay with Nick Vargas, who must have gotten his tires back down to temperature after the spin. Piltari definitely close enough to go for it this time. Can he trick Peters into taking the right-hand side? Looks like at this time Piltari on the right side to overtake and does go through. Even before the corner, I think that Peters actually lifted a little bit there to allow Piltari to go through, as he knew that when Piltari had that inside line, there was not much he could do about that defensively. So Piltari now into second place in the Mustang, and the Porsche demoted to third. Running around the traffic, but can Piltari maybe catch up a bit to Tess Fredriksson? We have seen him being rather quick in this race so far, or can Peters maybe even strike back at Piltari? Look how close he's running up the hill. If he can stay this close through Aqua Minerali and through Alta, then he might have the chance into Riviasa. Does look like that Mustang have mighty speed advantage over the Porsche, and the Porsche having quite a bit more downforce, being stronger on these more twisty parts of the track. He's even close enough that he could potentially send it into Alta. Doesn't go for that. It would have been super risky, of course, but yeah, he is within that slipstreaming range. But does the Porsche have that final drive to pull through the Mustang when it comes to it? We will probably get an indication down the start-finish straight. Tighter line from Peters. As Piltari goes into the pits, he comes in at the time where you expect him to take the tires as well. I don't think tire change will be the optimum strategy around here, but very likely what Piltari is going to do as he comes in at this part of the race. Other battles will be Milan Dumas still behind Keitonen, not having managed to pull through as of yet, but he have closed the gap right up there. Meanwhile, Koi close to Vargas as well, just behind these two, coming down the start-finish straight. But Koi not quite there, I think, to try for it. Into turn 1, thinking about it, but he is there and thereabouts. Just needs about a tenth or two to get himself into a position where the toe will be enough to drag him up alongside of Nick Vargas. Meanwhile, Milan Dumas right in on the rear of Keitonen as they come up the hill. Not really when overtake could happen, but he's definitely right underneath that wing. But maybe those more. Ooh, a little bit of slide there, so maybe opportunity for a move into Aqua Minerali. Milan goes to the outside into the Aqua Minerali. Side by side, leaving enough room, both of them. Milan being squeezed a little bit wide there. But maybe now, so close on the run into also that this could be a dive. I don't think Milan will go for it though. Pulls back behind Keitonen, trying to set up the better exit. Oh, accepts that, that sausage, losing him the potential run. Meanwhile, Koi on Vargas into Alta as well. Again, not close enough, but that BMW just seems so much better than all of the other cars over those curves. So Koi with the potential on Nick Vargas, not quite. He doesn't choose to send it into Reviasi. He will be close enough into Aqua Minerali if he does have a little bit of final drive advantage over Nick Vargas. Vargas also gets a little bit of a slide there onto the start-finish straight. So this could be overtake in the small screen from Koi on Vargas. Different lines. I think Koi would have been better off staying in the slipstream, but into turn 1 we go. Goes to the right-hand side. A little bit of traffic ahead of them. That is one of the DDS cars that probably have gone in for tire change. That could potentially be holding up Vargas on the exit there. Koi, slightly overspeed, will be bomb drafting. Oh, contact after that bomb draft and puts the DDS car into the wall. It looked like that Koi touched the rear end of Vargas. That might have unsettled Vargas to get into that DDS car. They're hard to say really from these pictures, but contact nevertheless. Koi driving back from Vargas after that. Very, very big unfortunate situation there from the for the DDS driver as he comes off the pits and then gets put straight into a wall, which means another pit stop might be required from him. He will be fuming behind that wheel. No doubts about it. Not what you want when you're coming out the pits, but that is the risk of running that that pit stop strategy in the halfway point. Getting into that traffic as we talked about early on if you're off sequence. That can be a huge difficulty in this race. Milan Dumas, meanwhile, super close to Keitonen for 6th position. Coming on to the start-finish straight. Milan in the slipstream. Frederiksen and Peters comes into the pits also. Maybe they're going for the tire change as well. I still don't believe that's the optimum strategy. I haven't tested for a long time on this track, but I don't think the tire wears that high. There's a lot of high-speed corners though, and that could be draining them a bit. As we do see the traffic there of that's Van der Kran. I think that's helping Milan Dumas in this situation, but not quite enough as both of the cars doesn't get the best of runs out of Temporello. But Dumas definitely putting the pressure on Keitonen. Keitonen just have to put one foot wrong, and then Dumas would go for it. Meanwhile, Koi and Vargas still going at it as they are coming up to Van der Kran. I think that might be, no, that's a Lambo maybe, or is it a Ferrari? I can't really see. Yeah, that is a Lambo, so definitely not Van der Kran as he's in the red Ferrari just behind these two guys. Frederiksen have emerged from the pits in 17th position as we have passed the halfway point in the race. Both Peltieri and Peters opting for that pit stop as well. So top 3 going for the assumed tire change. Milan Dumas coming into the pits. Maybe he's going forward as well. He might also just be saying that he don't think he can pass on track, so he'll be going for the overtake on strategy. Vargas and Coy, though, they are staying out there on track. I don't think they'll be changing tires, because then they are sort of getting around that time where we would want to do that. Coy on the outside of Vargas, but not quite close enough. At least showing himself, but we have seen Coy being super strong through Temporello, which means that he does have the opportunity into Villeneuve. But Vargas is an experienced fox, so he'll be hard to run tricks on. The sleek fox of Vargas. They could be in it for reasonable positions if that tire change will turn out to be costly for some of the drivers in front of them. The only really the top 3 and Dumas have taken that tire change who were ahead of them. This time Coy way too deep into Aqua Minerale. That could be another track cut potentially for him. As Vargas gets a little bit of breathing room. But really, if Coy can get a super Carlson into the pits also, get a super good run through Riviasa, then he'll be in a good position for the slingshot. Chase Fredriksson will have to clear some other cars. No blue flags to assist him in this one. As it is, I think, Fem Boss actually ahead of him, who haven't stopped yet. So no blue flags as it is for a position on track. Boss obviously haven't pitted yet, but he is allowed to stay there, and he doesn't have to move out of the way for Chase Fredriksson whatsoever. So Fredriksson will have to find a way through, though he does look close enough to go for some sort of slipstreaming move down the start-finish straight. Barkley drive-through penalty, that's for track limits. Meanwhile, Coy, Lube, Monakov all coming into the pits as well. After just 45 minutes of racing. Fredriksson not getting the move done this time around, but Boss not getting the optimum lines there, so Fredriksson on the outside of Temporello. Not a place where we see that move done often, outside into Villeneuve. Boss fending off Fredriksson. This is the thing for a driver like Fredriksson. Part of him will definitely be enjoying this battling. Another part of him will be thinking, get out the way, man! I was leading the race before the pits. I need this track position to keep pulling away. But yeah, that's a matter of mentality from Fredriksson. I do think that he's one of the drivers who will just like the battling on track, as he doesn't get to do that super often. So let's see what he can do this time through Aqua Minerale and into Alta. Does have enough of an inside here to go for it. Nothing Boss can do about this one though. Fredriksson goes through, also gets the good exit of Alta, so super move from Chase Fredriksson there, who have cleared Van Boss and moved himself up into 10th position outright. Still a lot of time to catch up to those who will not be taking the tire change. It's interesting to see that there are quite a few of the more experienced drivers still out there on track who haven't gone in for the pit stop yet, including 3 of the Mode 11 drivers of Bas van Melis, Sander Vale and Nick Vargas. Misha Melis, the AM driver, 4th in class at the minute, have gone off in the Villeneuve chicane, waiting for a gap in the traffic, goes back on track. Misha Melis could be in contention for a pretty strong season in the AM class. So Misha will definitely just be doing everything Misha can to retrieve the points in this race. Speroni into the pits. to retrieve as many points as possible. Big battle group down here, including Brem Loop, and that's Alderman as well, but Loop onto the grass he goes. Big slide on the rejoin. Which means that is that the Vard that comes up and potentially could have gone for that, but it stays behind. Does look like it. Ooh, as he goes wide again, there does Brem Loop. He might have some tire issues on that car. That was Milan Dumas as well who snuck through. And Dumas also taking the Vard. It looks like the Vard is keeping it in there. Not giving him an inch. Big move here from Milan. Slide side by side contact, pushing the Vard wide. Which means that Brem Loop goes through. And that BMW behind the Vard as well. That is a back marker, I think. It's not Koi, and it's a BMW, so that must be a back marker, I would assume. France joining in the YouTube as well. I wonder who he'll be cheering for out there. Maybe put it in the YouTube chat. But Brem Loop, not the best of the races after that pit stop round. He did look super strong beforehand, but not coming out of it that well. Vard, it seems a bit rough to say worst placed driver who haven't pitted yet, but he is the driver placed furthest down the running order who haven't taken the pit stop yet. I think that he is also running the deep strategy of just refueling in this one, having had a lot of experience with endurance racing as well. Oh, you've been visiting Bath, Mr. France. Very lovely. I'm also going on an excursion, by the way, to visit another of our community members, being René van Dijkhausen next weekend. Not the one coming up, the weekend after. Maybe join in for a little bit of a meetup in the Netherlands. That'd be quite fun. But if Vard there putting two wheels into the grass as he rounds the hairpin at the bottom end of the track, coming up the incline. I'm just trying to have a look up and down the grid to see if there are any super close battles. As I'm saying that, there's one right here. Teammates racing each other. That is Sander Vale and Bas Van Medis. Those blue flags being waved is not for Bas, that's for the THRC car that's moving nicely out of the way from Bas at least, and Vale getting caught up a little bit behind there, but that's just how it is with traffic. Sometimes it gives, sometimes it takes. That time it took from Vale. Interesting to see that that these two are running so close together to mode 11 drivers. Both of them I would rate as rather consistent drivers. Not the quickest of drivers out there, but they are not prone to make many mistakes. These two guys, they've been doing quite a bit of endurance racing. I've seen them on track many times there, and both of them also competed in the GT4 championships of old. With Vale actually doing really, really well in those cars. They seem to suit him quite nicely. But yeah, Bas being given a little bit of breathing room there by the back marker, which leaves him in a reasonably good position. I think that Carlson have also caught up to Salani in that mighty 13th position that we have been talking about so much in this race. Pilatri also having to make the move on Bus soon to get that traffic cleared. Yellow flags, that's the Vard that have, I think, retired as he spawned back into the pits from being out on track. Unfortunately, this time, Carlson seems to be looking for the move. But I'm getting into Alta from that distance. Maybe not the smartest of things to do. It is possible, but yeah, super risky into Alta because it is so narrow in the middle part of the track. Well, the track is technically reasonably wide, but the angle that you are driving on the track on there makes it that it's basically a one-line corner. But Carlson definitely close enough to Salani to go for it into turn 1. BMW Power versus Aston Martin. which have a Mercedes engine. But yeah, into turn 1 we go. Not actually close enough to go where he could have probably launched up the inside, but risky to try for into Temporello. The BMWs have seemed very good under braking. Shows himself in the mirrors into Villeneuve, but not quite close enough. But he is staying close enough that just a little bit of wheel spin from Solani that could end up costing Solani the position. But as long as Solani can hit those apexes and avoid it, then there'll be no trouble. Drive-through penalty for Sander Vale. Track limits that will definitely give Bafs a lot of breathing room as Nicholas Carlson gets very close. Looks for the move into Aqua Minerali, but doesn't quite. But it did scare Solani enough into Aqua Minerali that he had to back out of that, and trying to avoid the track limits does Solani, and therefore Nicholas Carlson goes through and puts himself up into 13th position at this point. But do remember, there's a lot of drivers ahead of them that haven't taken the pit stop yet. Sander Vale into the pits. I assume that's to save the drive-through penalty that he have just been handed. Would be a reasonably strange time to take the pit stop at. Meanwhile, Koi, once again, a lot of action for him. This would be for semi-pro lead on Grazioli, who took that pit stop way earlier than Koi. And I assume Koi took tires in his pit stop, so he'll be on very fresh tires. Assumably. We're not entirely sure on that, but Koi definitely close enough for it. Battle for first in class. Again, we have seen Koi many times in this race being so strong through Temporello and super good on the brakes into basically all the corners, but especially into Villeneuve. He seems to have found that magic line. Ooh, good cut back there to come around. Door was open, so a little bit there of argy-bargy, Grazioli and Koi. Koi actually giving that position back. I don't think I would have done that if I was Koi. Necessarily, but sportsmanship being shown nevertheless. Wanting to do it the proper way, does Koi. Ooh, running super close to Grazioli once again there. Almost contacting the rear end of him. Does look like that Koi have much better confidence under braking than Grazioli. But if Grazioli can keep Koi behind for another 21 minutes, then he will take the class win, which would be huge for his campaign for potentially a championship in the semi-pro class. To those viewers unaware, the classes are put in the colors where we can see the drivers' numbers. White boards with black numbers will be the pro drivers, silver with white will be semi-pro, and red with black numbers will be the AM drivers. But Koi not being good through Grazioli this time, so or Rivasi. Probably, yeah, whatever. The final corners this time, so not getting it up into Temporello that time around. Rivasa are the name that I'm looking for. I don't know why I just keep making up new names for that corner every time, but I guess that's just how it is. Meanwhile, further down the field, Martin van der Kran and Baki for 23rd overall. They are dueling it out. Important points in the Pro Championship. If they can come over with this car on the gravel just ahead of them. Have to be careful with the rejoin up there. I don't see any yellow flags being waved, so that could be 4 position, but it's a Porsche. There's no Porsches around them, so I do think that might be a back marker actually. Yeah, blue flags out in the side. But that classic red color of Martin van der Kran. Ooh, this time, good run through Aqua Minerali. Can Van der Kant do it into Alta? There is room for him there. A little bit of a squeezing through into Alta. Oh, not quite. He have been put around there before in this race, so he probably didn't have the confidence to fully commit into Alta there, and that lost him a little bit of a chance down the back straight and into the corner that I kept making up the names for before. So I'm just stopping trying to pronounce it, that corner with the letter R and some Z's and an I. Rivata, something like that. Pardon my Italian. But again, also not with the chance into the back corner. I have many Ferraris in positions up against each other from 21st all the way down to 27th. Almost pure Ferrari battle, but look how much better that Van der Kant got through Temporello this time. So there could be a potential difference in setups between Baki and Van der Kant. That maybe that Van der Kant is running a little bit more wing, or he have his brake bias in a way that he gets that car stopped better. Van der Kant known for being a rather safe driver, as I've said that now he's definitely going to wreck out massively. Because of course commentators' curse is a real thing. But it does look beautiful, these two Ferraris running through Imola. Again through Aqua Minerali. Little bit of a mistake by Baki there. Martin van der Kant gets the move done and puts himself up into 23rd position. This time it did look rather secure, so Van der Kant will have to try and get away from Baki, trying to break the toe as early as possible to avoid Baki getting a chance to fight back. I haven't spotted exactly which two cars we have in the bottom right hand screen. Something with K. Grazioli and Koi, that's the battle, of course. Grazioli and Koi. Koi behind and Grazioli ahead. I can see clearly now that's definitely Koi's car. Have seen him quite a lot this evening. If he's watching this stream back, he'll be very pleased with the amount of screen time that he have gotten so far and what a race he have had. Many battles he have been involved in. Strong drive. This is one of those times where I want to have been behind the wheel of a car instead of being in the commentary booth. If I could have had a race like Koi, constantly in battles through this race is Koi. And yeah, this time it's still Grazioli, and this is once again for Lee Grazioli with the drive-through penalty, so he doesn't need to get this move done after all. But this would have been for the lead, or it technically still is for the lead of the semi-pro class. So Koi will inherit the lead when Grazioli goes in to serve that drive-through penalty. Then Koi will probably get 15 minutes of running where he will just have to try and chase down Brem Loop up ahead and pull in some massive laps. But Grazioli doesn't go into serve immediately. Stays out on track. But whether or not that it's just to hold up. Oh, there Grazioli goes wide, and Koi actually goes through it, beating Grazioli on track. He can now also say after the race. But Grazioli could potentially have stayed out on track just to try and hold up Koi a little bit more, as Koi runs wide immediately after Grazioli have just done one corner before. So Koi back down behind Grazioli, so Grazioli can once again just try and be a little bit slower through the corners and prevent Koi from getting any further up the running order. Not that it will matter for the semi-pro championship unless if Gavioli catches up massively to them and gets into this one, but Koi will inherit this position. Meanwhile, speaking of Gavioli, he's leading a little bit of a train behind with Van der Kant and Bianchi. Same goes for Mokri or Moka or whatever we ended up knowing his name was, and Speroni further behind also in battles down there. Fredriksson also caught up to P7, where he will have to make the move as soon as possible. The more time Fredriksson is losing, the worse. Further down the field, this is Odelman, Dumas, and Sander Vale. Do you remember that Vale still have that drive-through penalty that he needs? Oh, sorry, he had that drive-through penalty that he served, so he will still have to take one more pit stop. But Odelman and Milan Dumas in a very, very close battle with each other. As Vale just keeps the line, I think that Oldman and Dumas both with fresher tires, I would believe, at the time when they came into the pit stop, they will be somewhat upset that Vale is there. But again, Vale is in all rights to do so. They are battling for direct track position, and there's no point in Vale to give up unnecessary time at this point. So freeway battle for that would be initially 14th position. It can of course all change after the pit stop round have finished. I do think that a lot of the cars who are running out there in the front, they will be coming in shortly, as they have run over an hour now on that tank of fuel that they have. We do know the Ferrari could run super long if you fuel save it, but I don't think anyone is moving out of the quickest possible map in a race like this. Not on ACC at least. Quick reminder that Wednesday next week we have the final round of this season's SLMS Championship, as Milan Dumas gets the better run there, but nowhere to go with it, as Odelman was just where he needed to be when Milan was accelerating. But Milan right underneath the wing of Odelman, breaking in and out of the toe. Maybe should have just have stayed there, going for it a little bit late. That does Milan, but not really quite there. I think he hoped that Odelman would have been psyched out a little bit more by that move from Milan, and maybe also braked earlier. But not Odelman. He knew where he could place the car, and he did so perfectly. But Milan Dumas looking forward once again. Super aggressive driving, but still very controlled from Milan behind. This time Odelman not with a super good exit. Milan pulls over Odelman, trying to defend it, putting Milan as wide as possible. With the kick that they could change sides as Odelman comes in ahead of Milan, and contact between Odelman and Milan, as Milan still trying the move into Aqua Minerali, but doesn't go through this time. Into Alta maybe. I don't think Milan will be trying. He is showing himself, but falling back into line behind Odelman as they're coming down the back straight. Meanwhile, Sander Vale have gained a little bit of time up ahead by virtue of this span, at least in direct contention with these two guys. Yellows in turn 1. They have passed. Milan not really close enough to Odelman down the straight. Does look like Milan is doing a little bit of a driving style where he's using quite a bit of tires. But again, with 75-minute races, and when you take the tires around halfway through, then you should have enough tire to go full push to the end. Oh, Milan there again under braking. Different braking line it looks like that Milan is taking to Odelman into Temporello. And maybe had a little bit of too much steering input there on the braking, so that's why it went a little bit deeper than he would have liked there from Dumas. Rounding the hairpin. Up the incline, 10 minutes of racing to go. Von Liebenstein finally comes into the pits from 4th. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out in relation to Jordi Peters. Because if he comes out ahead of Peters, then it's definitely in the chance of battling for that P2. But he needs to be ahead after the pit stop. Meanwhile, Pilatri have actually overtaken Fredriksson for the top for potential race lead, but Fredriksson strikes back immediately. Yeah, and this is the battle that could end up being very determining for the race win. Fredriksson, the very front car of these four. Peltari behind, and then it's Jordy Peters who just got around that back marker in the Porsche. That is race top 3. I wonder how Tej Fredriksson lost that much time to these two other drivers. All of them took the pit stop at around the same time. And Van Liebenstein have also gained massively on Fredriksson at least, but not so much on Peters and Pilatri. Caseman into the pits. But Pilatri, if he can keep this this pushing going, then he could maybe just maybe be in with a chance of sticking with Tej Fredriksson. Nevertheless, we do know that Pilatri and Jordy Peters, they are roughly equally paced, and they have had a good battle between themselves so far this race. Coming down the start-finish straight. Looks like that Fredriksson have gapped Pilatri enough that he can be a little bit more secure out in front. Cageman coming out of the pits as well. Let's just wait for the first split and see where Cageman is exactly in relation to drivers like Van Liebenstein and Carlson behind. Does look like that. Oh, there we go. Cageman just behind Van Liebenstein, actually really close to Van Liebenstein in that battle for currently 8th. I'm not entirely sure where that would be after the pit stops. Probably about battle for 4th in total. That's the battle we have in the bottom right hand screen. What we're looking for there are the Mustang and the Honda NSX. The BMW there is a back marker that is moving nicely out the way for the Mustang. Meanwhile, Peters have closed it a little bit to Pilatri, but Tej Fredriksson still out there in front, who's actually not gapping away that much. They do have a lot of traffic, so it's almost endurance-like conditions where you have to manage the traffic the best you can to gain as much advantage on your competitors. A bit surprised that we still have a few drivers who haven't stopped yet. Their fuel consumption must have been very, very minimum. Van Melis comes in this time around. But still Garcia, Vargas and Baldy out there on track, yet to take their pit stops. Van Liebenstein does look that he's clearing Caveson a little bit pace-wise. But still 6 minutes to go, so anything could potentially happen. It's not much of a mistake that they need to make for everything to change up and down here in the top running positions. Jordy Peters actually getting into a point where we could call this a direct battle for position and not just two drivers being close to each other on track. Meanwhile, Milan Dumas and Odelman also super close together. So battles are forming. A stop-go 30 for Bas Van Melis that will have been speeding in the pits and will put a definitive end to his chances of scoring good points today. Very unfortunate for Mr. Van Melis. Through the corners we go, lap traffic ahead of them, pulling out the way, doing the best they can. But this seems to have been a good cycle for Jordy Peters, as he gets super close to Pilatri. Meanwhile, Odelman and Dumas also with traffic ahead of them. No, that's actually a Vale ahead of them that still haven't pitted yet. Assuming Vale will come in this time around. Baldy have just taken his pit stop, but Garcia and Vargas still hanging out there out on track. I can't believe they can go this far without stopping, but they must have some special fuel-saving strategies implied. So they will have to take a very, very short splash and dash stop indeed. Ottleman definitely feeling the pressure from Dumas behind. But can he stand for it for another 4 minutes plus a lap? That is the big question. Does look like that Dumas will have it this time around down the start-finish straight. Let's just wait and see. Tucked into the slipstream. Pulls out, yeah, but not really. Doesn't look like that Dumas have the top end to go for it down the start-finish straight. He will have to find another place to do so. It will either be forcing Dumas or tricking Dumas to take a bad line through the Temporello and then do it into Villeneuve, or he'll have to do it after Alta and into Rivasa. Yeah, but he is helped a bit by Vale up there because Ottleman will be slowed by Vale ahead of him. But Ottleman trying for the move on Vale, but making the contact. Great news for Dumas, but very, very bad news there from Ottleman as he makes that contact with Sander Vale. As Nick Vargas comes into the pits. Baldy after the pit stop, did he actually come out in front? Let's wait till they cross a sector time. I highly doubt it. But let's see next time they cross a sector. But Ottleman not losing too much to Dumas there, but Dumas gaining the position on Ottleman after that clumsy contact with Sander Vale. Vargas going to the pits. Actually looks like that Baldy have come out in the lead of the race after that pit stop sequence. Super strategy from Baldy. Big strange contact early in the race, but somehow still managing to find his way to the lead after the pit stop round. How have he done that? That's the big question. But again, we were thinking that the no tire change strategy probably would be the quicker one to go for. And if Baldy pulls this off, even if he finishes in the top 5, I would say that was definitely the right choice for him. Dumas behind Sander Vale. Equal cars. Dumas fresher tires though. Garcia and Vale still needs to make their pit stops as they are getting very close to having to do it on the final. Well, they will have to do it the final time possible. Dumas being really aggressive, trying to go for this move on Sander Vale. He knows that Vale will have to take the pit stop, but still goes for the move and makes it clean, showing Ottleman how it's done. Into that corner, Garcia comes into the pits. As the white flag is waving out on the start-finish straights, indicating the final lap. Baldy taking it and taking the race lead and keeping race lead on the final lap with Fredriksson and Pilatri behind. Jordi Peters still in 4th. As Dumas seems to have secured the position on Vale for now. Baldy on the final lap, master strategy, super good call for him to only take the fuel in the pit stop. Was just about enough, 3 seconds, 3.6 seconds is the gap currently down to Tej Fredriksson. But Baldy does know he can drive as safe as humanly possible on this final lap with that big of a gap. Meanwhile, the battle for second is still raging on, or battle for third, we should say, is still raging on between Pilatri and Peters. As they come up through Aqua Minerale. Peters actually with a better run. Will he try it into Alta? I don't think so. Tucks in behind, one more good overtaking opportunity, but no, just losing it there by his slide. I think that's GG for Peters to Pilatri, and Pilatri will secure that third position. Meanwhile, 1 corner to go for race leader Baldy. As he comes around there battling up ahead of him for between two back markers, but Baldy takes the checkered flag and wins the Imola race. Round 2 of the championship does go to Baldy. Super result for him, and that will put him into the top of the championship. P2, Tesh Fredriksson, Pilatri P3, Peters 4th, and Samuel von Liebenstein will be expected to come home in 5th. He does do so. Carlson will be next to cross the line in 6th position. Comes across here, I think Vargas with the good strategy in 7th. Keitunen probably comes over in 8th. He does do so. Solani 9th. Wolf Garcia also strong fast strategy into 10th position. Dumas after all that 11th. Loop 12th. Odelman 13th. It seems to it's not defensive for those yet, but it does look like it. A driver have left the server, so Koi will be 14th, sorry, and he will have won the semi-pro class. Speaking of semi-pros, Mokri in second in that, and Gracioli in third after not the best of races for Gracioli. That's strong race for Koi. Super good races. All of the drivers are coming across the line. Flory off Ferro all across the line. Van der Kran will cross it as well. Strong driving around there. But this will also be very good for Koi's championship chances. Actually, as he had a rather significant win as well at Brands Hatch. Not as big this time though, the win, but 2 wins out of 2 possible. That will definitely be good for him. Didn't see how the aim class ended there though, but maybe Chris could tell me in the back of whether I could just open up pit wall, but it doesn't tell me exactly on that. How did the aim class end up, Mr. Hill? So only one aim driver ending up finishing the race. At least it looked like it. And we'll just be hanging about for a little bit to see if any drivers comes in for interviews. We do urge drivers to come in as quickly as possible if they want to talk to us after these races, as we are busy people as well that wishes to get on with our evenings. But if people want to join us for a little bit of interview about your race, then join the interview waiting room channel on the Discord, and we'll drag you in as soon as possible. But super strong race from a lot of drivers. I do think that driver of the day might actually go to Koi for all of the battling he was involved in. Could also be for Baldy, as that no tire change was super important for his overall win at the end there. But super race all around. Definitely was entertained in this one. I don't think we had a single second of the race where we didn't see battling between the drivers. But while we are rounding off this one, we can maybe try and look a little bit forward to next week's SLMS endurance race that will be happening on this channel as well. Still a lot to play for their pro class, or sorry, not pro class, LMP1, LMP1 hypercar, I think they are called in these days, those machines that are driving up there. A little bit confusing with all the things that's going on, but hypercar seems to be rounded up, but a battle for second, and that still rages on. Same goes for I don't think it's actually mathematically secured yet in the GT3, so that could be potentially up for grabs, but very likely that it will be Regan Mitchell who takes that one. Speaking of GT3s, in 2 weeks' time, we'll be heading overseas to Laguna Seca, the American track chosen for this season, where we'll be expecting some rather strong driving, as we have actually been joined in the small shed by semi-pro race winner Marcin Koi. Welcome to the shed.
Hello.
Strong race from you this time around. Lots of battles out there on track. I would say you might be the driver name that we have set the most time here in the shed this evening.
Oh, really? That is awesome to hear. It was such a fun race today. I mean, last race Brands Hatch was good, but this was definitely better from my side.
Yeah, most definitely, and 2 wins in the Semi-Pro Championship, that puts you in a really strong position for the rest of the season. Were you expecting that coming into the season at all?
No, not at all. I joined in pretty late, and I was just looking for competitive competition again. Well, that paid out. I mean, that I just won 2 races is nice, but it's all about the general pace and how the drivers drive on SSRI is like super clean and just hard fighting. You know, elbows now and then, but also fair. So for today, my quali didn't really go as planned. I managed to get P2 in my split, but I was a bit far back in the pack to my likings. So I ended up battling with Platinums more than I was trying to get the pace towards. I don't even know how I pronounce his name, but it's the guy who qualified first in silver. Had some epic battles there with Bram Lubbe, Nick Wagner, and eventually with himself. It was just awesome. I tried to make the overtake on him after the pit strategy. That didn't work out. So I decided to take a different approach and just keep the pressure up and hope I could force him into a drive-through, and that eventually happened. And that's how I secured a second win for today. But if he didn't have the drive-through, it would have been hard until the end.
Well, you actually did pass him the lap after he got the drive-through on track, but then immediately after you make the almost exact same mistake, but one corner later. Do you think that if he didn't get the drive-through, that you potentially actually could have gone for the move later on in the race as well? Because it did seem like you had a lot of pace, and that BMW looked super strong under braking in this race.
Yeah, I think it would have been possible, as my tires were like maybe 15 laps younger, so I did have more grip than he had. But his pace, especially in the middle sector, was coming out of the hairpin, was stronger than I am. So I could gain in sector 1, and then after the hairpin, I was just struggling to keep up with him. So I think I might eventually have been able to get past, but it would have been a hard fight for doing so. But it was awesome. So hands down to him as well.
Yeah, it seemed like, oh well, of course he wouldn't want to let you go through easily, as it was for Klaus Win, of course. But yeah, next time out in Laguna Seca, much more difficult track to pass at, where qualifying will be super important, and the clean racing might end there, as people might get a little bit frustrated behind and wanting to make the moves. But yeah, are you looking forward to the challenge of Laguna Seca?
Yeah, I can imagine. And I have to say, Laguna Seca is one of my worst track in ACC. So in that case, I am pretty happy with the results that I got so far. So I have a little bit of buffer, maybe. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it.
Look on the highlight reels as we are speaking. On the stream that Chris is putting up. Look at what's happening there. Do you remember that moment exactly?
Well, I think I missed it because my stream is like 10 seconds off. Oh, here it comes in now. So this is the drag on the straight indeed, yeah?
Yes. It did look like on the stream that that Brim actually lifted off a little bit there to just fall in behind and not opting for the side-by-side action into Temporello.
Yeah, I think this was one of the latest moves before he got the drive-through, and I made a mistake somewhere and I let him pass again. But it was just an overall awesome fight with everybody involved today, so glad for that.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks' time on Laguna Seca. I think we'll be starting to round off a little bit here on the channel. Any final words that you'd like to say out to the many people out there? Do you think that you have fans watching, actually?
No, not really anything other than happy that everybody fights as they do, and I hope we can continue doing so.
I will almost guarantee you that that will be the case. Nevertheless, I have been Oliver Anderson, Mr. One of Oliver, and behind the cameras this evening, as always, have been Grandpa Chris Hill. No cameo from the Evil Twin this evening, unfortunately, but maybe we'll see that on Laguna Seca. But good night, good evening, and until next time, I'll see you then.